Welcome to what is a very unusual, like highly unusual stream. I wanted to do a special stream to talk a little bit about what I've experienced so far, some of the misconceptions about these changes. I think it's worth talking about. So anyway, let's dive in. Well, first let's go to the patch notes, because the patch notes I think are probably like the most important thing that we can read at this point. We'll start, hi Captain Fuzzy. We'll start here, and then we'll move to how it actually works. So yesterday, Broadsword, I think it might be this morning, if they haven't done it already, they're going to roll out relic resets and keep resets across the board on all 3 realms. And by doing that, they're introducing a couple of changes that I think are designed to help balance out keep gameplay, or fights and keeps, especially with a shifting population. So the first thing is they've increased the reuse time on climbing spikes up to 180 seconds. So that's up from 60 seconds. Doesn't seem like a significant change, but it is, especially when if you've been in keeps where, and I'm just using Horarius as an example, when that tank train comes up and over the wall, they get diseased and damaged and get pushed back out. They jump in and out pretty frequently. So the idea of decreasing that happening, right, at least the frequency of that happening is helpful. Also, when you use those climbing spikes, you're going to get a 15% increase on damage to your tune if you have climbing spikes and you're up inside of a keep for 45 seconds. Again, that covers that brief period from when those tanks are climbing in, they're getting diseased, they're taking damage, and they're jumping out. So I think 45 seconds is actually a pretty good amount of time. Some people might disagree with me, but I think 45 seconds is good. I also think the 3-minute, they're gonna have to play with that. I think maybe 3 minutes might not be enough time, but it's a really good start and significantly better from where we were yesterday or the day before. So there's that. The new Obelisk that's in place now. This is the thing that I think people have been so confused about. And even in my state of the game, like that little mini episode I did where I talked to Legan yesterday, if you haven't seen that, it's uploaded on Twitch, it's on YouTube, it's in a podcast form. You can search DAoC State of the Game on your favorite podcast app and download it. But we didn't even know, I think it took probably a good 6 or 7 hours for me to fully wrap my head around, after I'd seen it and spoke to Legan with talking about it last night after the patch notes went live, about what it actually means for the community and how realms are going to use this thing. So let's just go in real quick to we're live on Pendragon here, and let me increase my game volume so that you guys can hear, and let me move OBS out of the way. So we're here at we're on Pend right now, and I think we're at Bold. And you can hear the obelisk refreshing. So this is what it looks like. It is not super big. You can walk right through it, right? There's really not much. There's not much to it physically. But if you target it, you'll notice, and if you look right here, it does actually have displays health. So the obelisk is technically, according to the game or the way they built it, it's a mob. It's a friendly mob, or a friendly. It acts, in fact, in a very similar way to a guard. So the obelisk does not do any damage to you. If you're an enemy, you can do damage to it. But like guards, friendly players can heal it. They can buff it, and if you're an enemy, you can shear it. You can debuff it. Right? You could do an energy train, a body train. You could do any kind of damage that you want, and you can actually debuff the thing too. So it does take damage, and it takes it at a pretty considerable rate. I don't know if they've changed this since we got a chance to test it early yesterday, but my rough calculation, and this is very rough, is that it had about 18,000 hit points, just based on the damage I was doing and the percentage in which it was dropping. So 18,000 hit points is not a lot when PBAer can run up to it and do 1,000 a nuke, which is pretty much what I was able to do yesterday. So this thing can be taken down pretty quickly. How do we even get this thing? How do we get the obelisk to come up in the first place? Well, there's an NPC that's here, and if you right-click on the NPC, there's a store. Let me make this just a bit bigger for you guys. So you can see here that it's a bounty point item. It costs 50,000 BPs. Do I have enough? This pack is all kinds of messy. Okay, I've already got one. So if you buy it, you can drop it in your pack. It's an item. And you can buy as many of these as you want. You can stock up on them. Of course, they're expensive because they're 50,000 BPs, but you could buy as many of them as you've got BPs. And then all you have to do to launch this, now this is already up, but we're just going to assume for a second that this obelisk was not up here. I would click on the item and give it to the NPC, and it'll spawn the obelisk. Okay. Once that obelisk is spawned, we have to go up to the Lord Room. We don't automatically get the buff, right? We have to right-click on the Lord, and you'll now see that very similar to, if you're familiar with the Ghost Keep, right? And the aka the Dragon Keep, whatever you want to call it. You get this pulsing buff that occurs. And it says Obelisk Protection. Very similar, by the way, to the way, well, I just mentioned that. The way the RP bonus worked in zones where the Ghost or / Dragon Keep was live. Works in a very similar way. So at this point, because all of the relics on this server on Pen are balanced, if I get the command right, each realm has its own 2 relics. It's a 50% physical and magical damage dealt reduction in damage. But watch what happens. So this is available to folks that are in the Lord Room, out on the inner oil, right? So I can be anywhere in the inner oil, and the buff will continue to refresh. And then I can go all the way up to the roof, and it will remain active and continue to refresh. The game checks I believe it checks the height of the character based on where the keep floor is. There may be some other way that they're doing it, but I think it checks the axis, the height axis, and then out at a radius, which is essentially this inner structure. Now, if I go downstairs, the second I go downstairs, so I'm here, right? And now I'm here. It'll stay up for just a couple of extra seconds, but it'll drop. They might have increased the range on this just a little bit. Because yesterday when I was down here, it wasn't refreshing at this point. So let's see if it drops. There you go. And the buff has dropped. So there is a little bit of wiggle room. In fact, it might drop here. It might have just refreshed one last time. It might have triggered a refresh. But essentially, if you're standing here, no range increase. Okay, so Beeb is in chat, and in fact, let me pull chat up so that we can see that. So Beeb says no range increase. That's great. So if you are here on the balcony, you don't get the benefit of the buff. So do you even get the buff depending on what realm you're on? Right? It depends on the amount of relics. Let's go back to the patch notes. So realms with five or more relics cannot obtain this buff. Realms with 3 to 4 relics receive a 25% damage reduction buff. Realms with 2 relics receive 50% damage reduction buff, so if everything is peachy keen. And realms with 0 to 1 relics will receive a 75% damage reduction buff. I don't think it is the top of the stairs. I think if we... That actually might... It might extend out to here. We can test that and look. I don't, in fact, know if it will in fact apply. It probably should if it checks height, based on where the floor of the Lord Room is. I'm not entirely positive if that's the case. We're just going to let this refresh a couple times. But it would appear, based on what I'm seeing now, it would appear that that it does, in fact, refresh at the top of the stairs. But it doesn't do you any good if you're on the balcony trying to fight. Yeah, so it does refresh up here. So we learned something new. And Borgio says top of the stairs does, though. That's useful. Yeah, I think it is useful. So I want to talk a little bit about how this is going to help you and how it's going to hurt you. Well, it's not going to hurt you. Maybe in some limited cases. So here's... Oh, let me pull up the chat. There we go. Okay. So here's the deal. This is for large-scale fights where you've got a big BG outside and limited defenders inside, which is the, kind of the textbook example of issues that, at least during EU prime time, that, for instance, Alb right now, at this particular moment, Alb is up against, where they've got a huge BG that's just taking keeps and they don't have an organized defense. This is not going to do anything for those players in the Lord Room, really, because that BG is going to come in and it's going to take the Obelisk down immediately. What it does is protects those players on the roof and on the inner oil from being, well, I mean, presumably they've got some heals. They're going to need heals anyway, right? If they don't have any heals, 50% is still not, you could still do 50% of the damage, which is frankly enough when there's stun nuke involved. But it gives people a fighting chance to get some kills and to try and hold that courtyard down, which is crucial. So it's not an I win button for underpopulated realms that are trying to fight against large. It's not an I win button. Hororius, for instance, is not going to have much of an issue with this, I don't think. But it does mean that it gives Albs a fighting chance on the roof and on the inner oil. Now, let's talk about an example. IRC, or I said it again. I despise calling them IRC because in reality, IRC is not just 8 people. It's a whole community of highly competitive players. But let's just say the competitive 8-mans that exist, right? Imagine for a second that they go to an underpopulated realm. So they go to Alb, and Alb doesn't have any of their relics, or might only have one relic. Now, the keep that they're in has a 75% damage reduction that's available to players on the roof and in the Lord Room and on the inner oil. It's going to make some fights far more difficult and more challenging. And this is not a complaint, because I think it's going to require people to think a little bit more strategically about how they hit those kinds of situations, whether they even engage in the first place, whether they even want to push into a keep where there's a couple of competitive groups or very good groups that are on the roof or on the inner oil that now can't take any damage or very little damage. It's again, not a complaint. I just think it means that we just have to think more strategically. Now, there's been some discussion about moving the obelisk. Not amongst broadsword, right? I don't think, at least. But in terms of the community, some of the folks I got inundated with direct messages overnight, which is the reason why I'm doing this now. I haven't even had a cup of coffee yet. But the community said, why don't you move the obelisk, right? Why don't you move it up to the second floor? Why don't you spread them out inside the keep? There's a whole bunch of things they could have done differently. I don't know if moving it to the second floor really changes anything. I mean, I suppose it gives people a fighting chance. It gives people who are defending on the balcony a little bit more time to kill what's being pushed up. But again, we don't. This is not an I win button. This is not a what are the staple easy buttons, right? That's not what this is. So I think making it easy to kill prevents it from becoming too OP. We'll just have to see how this all plays out. And it's my belief that Broadsword is being really responsive. And they're watching this. This is the first day. I don't even think we've experienced, because I don't think the EUBG is on yet. I don't think we've experienced a fight with this yet. This is brand new. Borgio, I can tell you that based on because I don't know if Beeb, are you here? And if you are, can you throw Ramic Zoom over into an enemy keep that's got it up on Pend? If you can, let me know in chat, and I'll jump back in, and I'll try and I'll try and kill it. We'll see how much damage we could do. Beeb, I was curious if you could jump me over to an enemy keep on Pend that has it live. I'm on. I'm just putting that. Just curious. I don't know if Beeb can do that or not, because Beeb is despite popular belief, she's not like the game itself. She's got a life and other things that she does. and credit to Beeb. Huge credit to Beeb. Was literally going all day yesterday into the night. I mean, Beeb was working so hard between Midwinter, and also credit to John and the team at Broadsword, because they were working super hard on trying to get all of this stuff in too. You really have to give them a lot more appreciation than I think we have been. So let's just wait for Beeb says I am a zombie. That I believe, you poor thing. So, as I said in the beginning, I think the Obelisk, based on the testing yesterday, that it has roughly somewhere between, I think it's 18,000, but it could be somewhere between 15,000 and, say, 22,000 hit points. I don't know if that's changed. I don't know. But we're about to find out how much damage I can do. Well, this is probably the wrong class to test it on, but we'll see. Okay, so immediately I don't have a sup pod up. And let's go ahead and... Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead and kill this. Okay, so the hit points haven't changed on it. So you're watching the damage I'm doing to it on a minstrel of all things, right? And just a minstrel meleeing it down. Oh, and I'm using Side Slicer too, which seems to be working because I guess the Obelisk is facing sideways. But you can see I'm doing significant amount of damage to it. Just me alone on a minstrel, in about 20 seconds I have it down 10%. So I mean, it does in fact it works. You can in fact damage it, and you can damage it pretty easily. So I would say, okay, Carol, I'm done with this. Get me out of here. I would say that you can kill it pretty easily at this point. So this is, again, really for, in my opinion, I guess I could Mascade out if I'm not getting hit. Let's try that. This is really for roof and inner oil defenses. It's tougher on Yuan now, though. Oh, okay. It has changed on live, not on Pend. Okay, so curious to know what that ends. I guess we'll find out today if it's been exactly to what scale it's been made tougher. Don't know. This is all very new, and as I said on the special state of the game yesterday, the population of there's not 1,000 players that we can't organize these events, right? Beeb can't organize these events. Me as like a small stream and a great community of folks can't organize like people to go over. We can't do these huge large scale test events on Pend. They do a ton of bug testing internally. They do bug testing on Pend, but in terms of how it actually plays out with the population, it's really important for it to get rolled out on live and then for Broadsword to just watch. So what it is today may not be what it is tomorrow. They're going to keep an eye on this and see how it evolves. Who knows? Are there any questions about this that are remaining? I mean, I don't know if there's a whole lot else. I will say that there is a little bit of a teaser here, which is very exciting. In this in the notes, which is there are several other additional keep upgrades being discussed, as well as more ways to redeem the upgrades by completing a myriad of gathering quests around the frontier. So stay tuned. I don't know what that means, but it sounds awesome. It sounds super awesome. Who knows what broadsword is what this actually means, like in terms of keep upgrades, but that's cool. So this could be just one component of a series of things that groups and Zergs are going to have at their disposal. I haste buff the one at Fens winning. It doesn't hit back. So the obelisk does not hit back. So haste buff is not going to do it any favors, but you can buff it just like normal, and as Beeb said, you can heal it. So those folks on the if you're holding that balcony, and you've got a Zerg that's rushing in on the ground floor, you could actually keep this thing alive. Not that it really matters at that point, because the fight's on the balcony, and probably not on the roof, although you might be nuking people that are coming in, or you might be on the oil. The other benefit of this, right, because it extends out to the inner oil, is that it's going to protect people who are running oil. And with climbing spike reuse being increased, it also means that at least the keeps that have climb points on inner oil, it's going to enable folks out there to survive for a significantly longer period of time than they were able to before. The obelisk can be PBAE'd and melee'd. It can be both. So you can absolutely get a whole bunch of Ice Wizzies or Mana Elds or Warlocks or whatever you want, and smack it. It's only and Beeb might be able to confirm. Yesterday it was a 500 unit. You had to be within 500 units in order to hit it. So you can't like throw bolts at it. You can't cast at it from afar. You have to really be inside, like, you know, on the stairs really, or just a bit closer. 500 units is not a huge distance. If you think about it, if you do a GT set 500 in game right now, you'll see how small 500 units actually is. So it is the buff affects people that are in the Lord Room, the roof, and the inner oil. So it essentially does, I think, an elevation check. I don't know the mechanics of it. And Beeb might know. If John's in here, John might be able to jump in and say something. I don't know if he is, but from the floor of the Lord Room up and out. Once you dip below the height of the floor room, the buff no longer refreshes. AF debuff does work on it. ABS debuff rather does work on it. Yes. So it's just like it's like a guard or a mob. That's all it is. But you don't get heal RPs, as far as I know, because it's not a player. So it's not like you can heal it and just sort of farm RPs off of it from healing. So it's not for the balcony, but it is for the top of the stairs, it would appear. So the top of the stairs, it does in fact help you if you are at the top of the stairs trying to hold people pushing up, which is good. That's something that I didn't know yesterday. Could have known it. Could have tested it out, but didn't. So we'll see how this all plays out. But I think it's pretty exciting. I think the changes are exciting. And I don't think, for those who are in the HIB BG that are like, oh my god, like this is going to be so tough. And there are people, I'm not making this up, there are people that messaged me that were in my Discord today that run with the EU HIB BG that were saying this is awful. This is just so anti-BG. And it's not. Okay? It is not anti-BG. I am not anti-BG. People were accusing me, or one person was accusing me of that earlier today. I'm not anti-battle group. I'm not anti-solo. I'm not anti any playstyle at all. I'm pro all of this because it all fits together in the game. All of these things, all these playstyles have to coexist. But this is not going to hurt the EU hit BG. This is going to make it so that they have to think a little bit more about what they do. Right? It's not going to be the same, just rinse and repeat on autopilot, climbing in, killing everything, going out. It's going to make it, you're going to have to put a little bit more thought into what you do on the, as you climb in, how many tanks, if you've got the heals to be able to support it. If you climb in and you're forced out, you can't come back in for 3 minutes once you've used those climbing spikes. Sorry, Calibrex. Yeah, go ahead. Drop Calibrex. If you've got questions, go ahead and drop it in here. Calibrex writes, sorry I'm late. Starting my comment question in general Discord section before you started streaking. I am fully clothed. I will remain fully clothed on stream. All of you are welcome. I get enough crap as it is for the beard. There will be no disrobing. That is not a question that I can answer on stream, Captain Fuzzy. I'm so sorry. It's a stork delivery process. Cap says, I think the climbing spikes change is really going to hurt heavies as an archetype. I don't think it will. And here's why. Once you're inside, you can remain inside. It's not like after, 3 minutes you get thrown out of the keep. If you use the climbing spikes and you're in, you're in. And for 45 seconds after you use those climbing spikes, you take 15% additional damage. But it's only for 45 seconds. So if you climb in and you're able to, if you're able to remain inside of that inner, hopefully you've got a good group composition that includes people who can clear disease and heal, right? Because if you don't, then you're going to get killed. I don't think it really hurts any of these tanks. I think it just gives people an opportunity to kill them. Make it a little bit easier. And that's really I think that's the change that needed to happen. It needed to happen was this incremental change just to make it slightly easier for people to kill. Also, there's a psychological component of this patch or this update, which is that there is another tool or two at the disposal of realms that are slightly underpopulated or heavily underpopulated. Gives people there's something else that they can do. It changes things up. It's something else that they can do to try and compete against numbers that are way bigger. Borgio says, as a heavy, it turns climbing spikes into more of a tactical use rather than an auto. Quick tank push to clear the wall for a reprieve before diving out. Right. So you really have to think about when you're going to use it. Cap said earlier, a lot of times the climbing game is a lot of in and out. It's no longer going to be a lot of in and out. And it just means that here's the thing, right? Mid BG, US primetime, HIB BG, mid BG, they don't climb. They don't climb in. We don't climb. We don't have climbers. We really don't have. We don't have a ton of people that can climb. There might be I'm thinking of maybe 2 or 3 heroes that occasionally I see in the US primetime BG that'll climb in and out. But that's not a lot. And the mid BG, I know, being that I play on HIB, at least nowadays, primarily during US Prime, the mid BG doesn't take advantage of climbing spikes either. So who does this really affects again, I don't think the patch is necessarily it's not an anti-hero thing. Anybody could be anybody could be doing what Hero is doing, right? Anybody could be running a BG that is significantly larger in numbers than any other BG that exists, or any other, maybe has the most population out of all three realms. This is not an anti-hero patch. This is we recognize that there can be some imbalances inside of keep fighting, and we want to make it a little bit easier for people that don't have the numbers or the organization to be able to do a little more. This kind of goes hand in hand with the individual contribution system that Broadsword put into place in 1.121. Remember, before 1.121, you got RPs just for taking keeps, right? It didn't really matter. You just, like, you could PvE keeps all day and make tons of RPs off of it. And 1.121 changed that so that the RP bonus was really dependent on whether people were actually even fighting inside, whether you got kills, or whether you saw any action at all. You saw any enemy players at all and were able to get some kills. It also meant that defenders now started making defense RPs where they would make nothing prior. So this is complementary to 1.121. This is complementary to the change that they made before. 1.121 and that individual contribution system was not enough. It was not enough now. It was enough then. As the population has evolved over the course of time and the game has evolved, that was not enough. And I think this is that next step, if you will. Coxicane says Hero is going to be so easy to beat. Hero wasn't difficult to beat in the first place, right? Hero's been up against, like, especially in the last couple of months, last 3 months, Hero was really struggling to try and take these keeps because albs were showing up. Mids, well, maybe in smaller cases, because he tends to, I think he hits alb, at least in my opinion, he hits alb more than he hits mid, but he wasn't as successful. You can go on the Exidio Herald and see his, the amount of RPs he makes per week has dropped dramatically. And that's not because the Yuane bonus was gone. They're not that difficult to kill. But you need to be a little bit more organized. And I think this just says, this patch, this little keep change, is just a bit of a leg up for people that are that level of disorganized. Coxicane says savages need to get climbed for free, not specking 50 into savagery. I think the days of giving people free stuff, I don't know if it's over, but I don't think any significant number of players is going to advocate for light tanks to get anything at this point that's free. So, take that for what it's worth. I can't tell you how many people have messaged me over the last few weeks and are like, well, you should talk about free charge and light tanks and free charge on the state of the game. And so I in fact, the last state of the game I talked about what were they, the stances, right, that you could be on light tanks, and when Broadsword introduced that, and free charge was given to a lot of light tanks. And I'm not the person from the 5,000 foot view that really knows how successful that free charge is. I think it certainly helps light tanks. It encourages tank groups to push, and for those tanks to push into fights, or to also push into the backfield and kill and be able to come back out again. Like, charge is a good thing, but the idea of giving savages free climb is, to me, doesn't make a ton of sense. No one specs 50 savagery. So, but that's a choice that they get to make. That's a choice that savages get to make. If they want the climb, then they can go 50 savagery. It's fine. If they want it. But, you can't have climb and all of the other utility of savages. Calibric says, perhaps realm bonus should be regionalized, meaning if solo fighting a duo, get 1 to 2 times the realm points per kill. If 8 holding a tower versus 16, same type of bonus per kill. That way, 1v1 and 8v8 won't be affected. I have said from, at least on all the state of the games from the beginning, that I think any real successful change to any kind of RP earning dynamics, mechanics, right? The algorithm or the mathematical equation that RPs, that the game uses to calculate how many RPs you get, bonuses, all of that stuff should be based on population at a very limited level. Regionalized, maybe even, like SM Island, for instance. Like anybody on SM Island gets X amount, depending on what the population is on and off the island on the opposing realms. I think, and I want to tread carefully here because I don't want to like overstate my view, but this is a great start. But, there's so many of these situations that could be resolved if there are bonuses given to underpopulated players in a particular area. The issue, though, right, and if I play devil's advocate, the issue with that is that there are quite a few very good 8-mans that are out there that kind of stuff, those kinds of changes really heavily benefit. So I don't know the answer to this. I don't know if anybody does. I think it's kind of one of those things that we have to see. I'm kind of talking about nothing at this point because we have to see how it all plays out. But I would like to see more regionalized, population-based bonuses for sure. That's just a personal opinion. I've also said, I think repeatedly, that I do not think that having the underpopulation bonus be available to players, I don't think people should be able to see it. I don't think players should be able to see what the bonus is on a particular realm. I think in the beginning, it was a brilliant idea. It was going to help solve a problem where it was going to try and encourage players to go over to another realm that was underpopulated, right? It's Broadsword sees a problem, and they're trying to find a solution to a problem. The solution, however, either works as intended, right? Or the community does something completely different with it. And that's, like the casual group finder, right? It's a brilliant idea. Like that was an issue on a lot of the realms. Trying to like build proper group compositions. And Broadsword went in and built a tool to solve that problem. But nobody uses it because the population is too cliquey. There was a problem. Broadsword implemented a solution. The player base took a hard right turn. The population bonuses that exist, right? It was meant to drive players from one realm to another to try and balance out gameplay. It launched. It worked for, I think, a little while. I think it actually made a difference. And then it took a hard right turn, and players did something completely different with it, which is when they see that they're heavily underpopulated, they log out. They don't want to fight. Sorry, Stunning. I have to do this to you. We do not talk about free shard names here. So you have to be, yeah. In fact, I should just make that I don't know why, but I should just make that an auto mod. I haven't done that yet. I don't know why. We can talk about, lightly talk about free shards. I really don't like to talk about them. I certainly do not want to mention names of any free shard. It's not the game. It's a rip-off of the game. At a very basic level. Calibric says, any thoughts on helping tank groups in BG get better bonuses as caster groups do in keep tower defense takes? So there's this disparity in RPs between tanks and casters. But some types of classes are more useful in situations than others. The game has turned into, because of the evolving population, the game has turned into more of a fight inside structure, especially during prime time. You know, there's a lot less open field fights and more fights inside of structures. That's partially due to population. It's partially due to BG leaders who feel like dying repeatedly disappoints their or maybe just like it disappoints themselves. It disappoints the following inside the BG, and so they don't fight open field. So when you're dealing with towers, for instance, towers are one thing. Tanks are great in towers. Tanks are actually great in keeps. It's only once you get through the doors, right? So if you think about it, casters are super effective and have a ton of utility in a lot of situations. Tanks in my opinion, have the ability to do a lot more, but only once the doors are down. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you doing that. Ollie and Toonses both jumped in and added that to Automod. Thank you. I don't think there's anything that you can do. I mean, there might be a I'm a fan of reinventing the way RPs are earned. But that's a huge ask of Broadsword. Like, if it was up to me, I'd say just wipe the slate clean. But I don't know their budget. I don't know their development resources. They're working on a new server. I would say just wipe the slate clean and redo the way RPs are earned across the board. But as it stands right now, I don't know if, you know, giving tanks more RPs is worthwhile. There's a disparity, but tanks, there's a place for tanks in all of these fights. It just comes at a different time than when casters are most useful. I mean, push tanks, a group of push tanks, and we see this with the mid BG, are extremely successful in clearing out towers, clearing out second, third floors of keeps, pushing to the roof. Sorry, Stunning Styles. Yeah, I mean, in fairness, it's in the rules. It's in the rules. You can't even chat before you accept the rules, and it's one of the very few rules that we have here. So, but I appreciate all of the streaming that you do, and I appreciate you joining the stream. Just, we have a couple of rules, and that's one of them. Cap says, just form your groups better. Don't do full tanks group. Add an AE caster to your setup. Yeah, composition's you're still getting some of the benefits because you're earning RPs off of that caster skills. So you're absolutely still getting the benefit of it. Hybrid groups are great. I mean, look at the most successful group setups on Alb. Usually involve a Pally in arms plus a Sork and a Thurge or a Sork and a Cab, right? Hybrid groups work really well, but you can't. It's, you know, it requires some thought, because if you have a hybrid group, you shouldn't necessarily all be on the same MA. You can be, but it's usually not the best tactic. You just have to put some thought into it. It's all good, man. Calibric says you need tanks and tank groups if you want to push EV towers. You really do. You do. You need the hit points. And the utility of whatever tanks that push up, you need the hit points of those folks that go up to the second floor. Whether they're dropping something, you know, or they're power leaking, whatever. AKA Extraterrestrial says, whoa, I can't think and play at the same time. Get good, man. Just kidding. Borgiu says, so to get the Obelisk buff, you buy the Obelisk and then right-click the Keep Lord, right? Yes. So if we go back into the game. Oh. Beeb was nice enough to put me back here. Hey, there's Beeb still. So you essentially go in, you buy the item from the NPC. I've got a couple of them in my bank. I can't give it to the NPC because there's already one up. But essentially, I would hand it to him, and it would spawn this obelisk. And then if I go upstairs, and I'll just show this one last time for everyone. You right-click on the Lord, and you get this. Let me make this just a bit bigger for you guys to be able to see it. But you get this this buff that pops up. And at the moment, on Pend, the relics are balanced out. So there's, 2 on Alb, 2 on Mid, 2 on Hib. So it's a 50% damage reduction. But if I leave, right, say I go out on the outer oil and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to jump down and kill all these people. Look at this. Watch me, right? It's going to do a check at some point here in the near future. It gives me a couple of extra seconds. But once it realizes that I'm outside of the... and it's really about timing. See, and it dropped even before it refreshed. So it does last a little while. But not to the extent that I think it's going to do... or it's going to make any significant change. Can confirm it costs 50 BPs on live servers. I just put it up on Crouch. Nice. This also means, by the way, that you really should be running 50% BP pots from the Mithril store. You really should be running 50% pots. That solves the problem of earning BPs. And also, you should be doing BP quests, everything that you can to earn BPs. Take your macro teams down to DF. Do whatever you need to do in order to get bounty points, because you're going to need them. And the realms that don't earn bounty points will ultimately suffer the most from this. Is earning BPs an issue? No, not really. It just depends on the amount of action that you have, or whether people are willing to run quests outside, of RVR. That's really what it comes down to. BPs, you can earn a BPs in a ton of ways that don't involve any risk, because BPs are, have become essentially the new central currency in the game. You're capped on all your tunes and never run quests. Well, now you can start dropping some of those caps down and start buying stuff for your home realm. But people are gonna need bounty points. Anyway, any last questions? That means we need more myth giveaways, which means we need more peeps supporting you on Patreon to support more giveaways. Yeah, or more cheers. I do a ton of mithril giveaways, and they're not free. Broadsword does not provide these codes. They come out of my personal pocket. So any support, whether it's on Patreon to help support all the work that we do, whether it's going to ramicmedia.com and supporting us directly there, which is frankly the preferred way of doing things. Patreon's great. Patreon's much better than gifted subs for sure. But yeah, any little bit helps. Do I use beard oil? I use a beard balm, but yes. I would look like a raging dumpster fire. Literally a raging dumpster fire if I did not use some kind of beard oil or balm. I use a balm, and anyway. Okay, so we'll spend just a couple more minutes talking about other questions here. And if you missed the recap of all of this, once it goes live, or once this ends, there will be a replay available. It'll be on YouTube. You'll be able to watch it. And I'll edit it down a little bit so that it makes more sense. What do you think this new server is going to do to the pop? I feel like it's absolutely going to be the final nail due to the pop already suffering as much as it is. I'll answer one question about the new server. There is a huge population that plays free shards. Oh, thanks, JD, for the bits. I don't have the alert box up. Sorry, I have to add the alert box. I don't actually have it on this state of the game. JD just cheered 100 bits. Thank you, JD. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. The alert box isn't here. There's a huge population to pull from. I don't think that this is going to be the nail in the coffin for you, Wayne. I really don't. I'm way more optimistic. about this new server. And we still don't know a ton of details on it. We still don't know whether we're going to be able to transfer our tunes over, whether it's going to be a fresh start or not, whether there's going to be a grind required like there is traditionally for, or like, what was pre-TOA. And on some of the replica free shards of pre-TOA days, like there's a huge grind. I don't know. I would be curious to see if that happens. If they make you grind it out or not. I don't think that the community can stomach a significant grind, but one of the beautiful things about servers, the pre-TOA servers, is that it was not just instant level 50. You really had to learn the game. So as part of this launch of the new server, they could pour if they wanted to, or if they have the ability to, they could pour a ton of money into trying to advertise for it, right? Or that could be the jumping off point to get people back into the game. I assume by then the new Herald will be up, which has been in development for quite some time. I assume that there will be a lot more community guides that will have been built, more Twitch streamers. There's a lot that can be done between now and then. So it's not just the existing pop. Here's the other thing that people really glance over. There are so many subs to this game that are not being utilized, right? There's so many people who are sub that don't play, that maintain active paid subs, waiting for an RP bonus to come in, waiting for a special event, waiting for time to play. So just the population now, which is not bad considering it's a 20-year-old game, there's still lots of action to be found. The population does not reflect the current sub count of the game at all. Not even close. Not even in the same ballpark. Because if it did, I don't know what the status of the game would be. That's the thing about this game. People sub for a ton of reasons. It's one of the reasons I think the veteran rewards were brilliant from a business standpoint, because you have to be subbed in order to get the veterans rewards, and the veterans rewards are their prized possessions, and frankly well worth keeping a sub up if you're trying to retemp a tune. Epiphanex says, same, I feel like a fresh start is the best to hope for it to work well, people having a level playing field to start again. Yeah, I agree with you. I just, in terms of the grind, I don't know how that's going to work. We'll have to see. But I'm excited for the new server. I'm very excited for the new server. And part of what's taking it so long, I think, is probably the thought that goes into exactly how to do this right. Because Broadsword is a business, right? There has to be some level of profitability for them to do, for any for-profit business to do anything at all. Usually. So there has to be a reason. And this is a very important pivotal moment for Broadsword. So I would think that a lot of the time that the community has thought they're doing nothing is in reality them sitting around trying to figure out, maybe in brainstorming sessions, maybe talking to the community in small numbers. I don't know, but just trying to think about the right way to do this. Calibrex asked, did they mention that it will be... did they mention what will not be included in the new server, like TOA abilities? John, a couple of years ago on Post Count, said that they were developing a pre-TOA server. That was a couple of years ago. Things could have changed. I don't know. But I think that was may have been the last time they talked about, or hinted about exactly what it was going to look like. But I've talked on prior State of the Games about how I think it will probably end up being a hybrid where it may be pre-TOA, but with some quality of life improvements that have been made on Uane over the last few years. Because just going back to pre-TOA is not fun. To me, it's not enough, at least, because there was a lot of imbalance pre-TOA. If you played pre-TOA, you remember there was a lot of imbalance amongst the realms and classes, most of which has been ironed out since. Stunning Style says, I've been lurking and really like your state of game and gameplay. Thank you very much for saying that. We should try to connect to one of our streams. I've always wanted to discuss Free Shard versus Live with an informed person, just in relation to how Broadsword should move forward and what will happen to the game in the future. Also the new server Broadsword I was thinking of doing. Let's talk offline. I'm not going to do a stream about Free Shards versus Live. But you know, we can talk a little bit about what we hope for out of the new server. You know, and I will say that I think there's been you know, some observations. I think there's been some observations about what has worked and hasn't worked in other places for the game. So, you know, it's one of the things, if you follow tech, right? Apple is usually last to the party with a new feature, right? I mean, Android phones had Face Unlock before iPhones had Face ID. Google is now, like, just in the last year rolling around enhanced SMS, or whatever the technical term is called, where iPhones have had iMessage forever. iMessage is like a locked ecosystem. But anyway, I digress. The benefit for Apple to wait when they develop a product is to be the one to ultimately get it right in the end. Patience is a virtue. And by Broadsword waiting and thinking about this and analyzing what's out there, trying to put all their ducks in a row, making sure that they've got the right idea that they know will work, it benefits them. Rushing to market is never a smart move business-wise. Patience is a virtue. I don't know. We will have to see about the new server. I did talk about it extensively on prior State of the Games. You can get those by going to my YouTube channel. They also post in Discord. We have a podcast. You can search DAoC State of the Game anywhere. Any of the podcast players that are out there have it. And in fact, I would need to check the rankings, but I'm pretty sure we're pretty close to the top 100 of video game podcasts already on Apple Podcasts in the directory. Which, by the way, doesn't say much, because the top 50 podcasts in any of those categories get over 500,000 downloads per episode. And then it nosedives after. So just because we're close to being in the top 100 doesn't mean that we are some huge big deal. But for a podcast that's only a week and change old, not bad. And I credit the community for you guys listening and downloading, getting the word out. And this will probably, I don't know if this will be a podcast. We've been dropping a lot of episodes, so I don't know if this particular recap will be one, but it'll certainly be available on YouTube. Okay, I think that's it. I mean, unless there are other questions, I think that's all I have. I just wanted to, I wanted to go over what these changes really meant. And I don't think it's I don't think the EUBG is going to be affected by the protection obelisk a whole lot. The EU HIB-BG, although we will have to see. It'll certainly make it more difficult to kill people on the roof and to take down the oil, which is fantastic. I think the climbing spike change is going to be a pretty big deal. But we'll have to see. Who knows? Captain Fuzzy, you said nothing about the most important thing, the Santa hats. How could I forget? Captain Fuzzy, man, what would I do without you? Probably a lot. But we should go through that anyway. Are there pictures of the hats? Yes, there are. So, there are new hats. And is the little guy called Merloaf? Is that really the name, Merloaf? I love that. I didn't know that. I haven't bought the pet yet. I just got the hat. I was not running the right helm on the Mauler yesterday. I realized that I was running a Curative Sunburst cloth instead of Curative Sunburst leather. It was a really... I'm like... I messaged Beeb last night and I'm like, Beeb, it's broken. The hat's broken. I can't apply it. Can't apply it to my helm. She's like, what class? What realm? You know, like, maybe it's a bug. She's like, what armor type are you running? I'm like, oh, it's a cloth helm. So at 3 a.m. this morning, 3 a.m, I went and crafted the proper leather helm. And now I've got, now I've got the Santa hat on my, I got the Santa hat on my, my Mauler. There is a Hedwig. Go, go, go now. The owl is Athena. Wait, what is this? Don't forget Hedwig. What is Hedwig? Am I so far out of things here that I don't... Okay, I'm really confused. I guess we'll save that for flipping out about Santa hats at 3 a.m. gamer moment. Well, yeah, I flipped out. Oh, the owl pet. Very cool. I haven't seen the snowy owl yet. I'm gonna have to look at that. I have not seen it. The flipping out about the Santa hat at 3 a.m. thing for me was more about how I looked at this photo and was like, oh my god, Greg, you are Greg, the graphic artist at Broadsword. Oh my god, Greg, you are so amazing and talented. This is so cool. Look at the little, the holly leaves on the hat. This looks so amazing. I want this. And then couldn't get it during the stream. Look at Discord. Uh-oh. Oh, really? Okay, hold on. We're gonna have to log back in. Really? You guys don't get to see my password. Sorry. Blur it out. That's too much work. It's way too much work. Which should I don't want to open up our PMs, but hold on. Let me do this. I have another way of doing this. Hold on. Oh, okay. Here we go. Oh my god. That is so cool. That is so cool. I'm going to get that now. This is a problem. I have a problem. I have a legitimate problem. Also, I just this you can be as upset and as toxic as you want, and I'm just saying you, like, generally speaking, people can be as toxic as they want about these new cosmetic changes and these new items or these new things. They're beautiful. They're really cool. And we need this kind of stuff because it keeps things interesting. We need this kind of stuff. The game needs more cosmetic stuff. Hats, custom seasonal stuff. We've got to have more of it. It's great. And I'm so happy that that Broadsword's doing it. And again, Greg, if I knew you in real life, I would buy you a beer if you drink, or I'd buy you pizza, or if you're gluten-free, I don't know, get you a frozen meal. But Greg, thank you for all the work that you do. Everybody at Broadsword, thank you for the work that you do. But they're doing such a cool job. Such a cool job. Anyway. Greg is really knocking it out of the park. Okay. That's all I have, I think. Thanks for sharing that. I'll be back tonight with a stream. 7:45 p.m. Eastern, 8:30. I got a whole bunch of giveaways to send out to people. Oh, hold on. This is why is it doing that? I got a whole bunch of giveaways to send out over the last couple of days. Yeah, sorry. What? Say, oh, you get it free. Sorry. Okay. So the owl you get for free, and you get it as part of the roaming quest. That's all you have to do. Complete the roaming with friends quest to get the owl for free. To get, where's my button? To get that for free. All you have to do. That's pretty cool. I said it one time. I could say it 2 times. How many times do you want me to say it, Beeb? It's free. Get the roaming with friends quest and get an owl free. Limited time offer. Just pay shipping and handling. Call now. All right. I got giveaways to send out. I got owls to get. Apparently. I got all sorts of stuff I got to do. I am so appreciative of you guys tuning in for this really kind of weird, impromptu, funky stream. Super funky stream. But thank you so much. And these we're crediting the folks that give the most on Patreon, that support the stream the most. And that is that's Pronder and that is Siambra, who are Beard Crew members. That's the highest level of support on Patreon. Thank you. Patreon.com/RamicMedia. The link is in chat if you want to support us. There's also tons of exclusive content on there as well. And also special thanks to Borgio and to Beeb herself, Beeb the Beeb, for being a Tier 3 supporter on Patreon. Again, Patreon supporters from the $5 mark up get access to really cool, exclusive, full-length content that I do not post to YouTube. I don't post to Twitch. And you should totally check it out. All right, again, 7:45 p.m. tonight. Stream starts, 8:30 giveaways begin. Be safe, wear a mask, and we'll see you in a few hours. Good night. Or good afternoon, I guess. Have a good day. Enjoy yourself. Get your owl while you can. Get it quick. Go get your owl. It's free.